you know, it really doesn't matter what anybody says. I know it's all politically motivated.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Waste of time.
Call the meeting in order and welcome everybody to the July 20th, 2026 council meeting. Can I get a roll call, please?
Counselor Dowd.
Here.
Counselor Waterman.
Here.
Counselor Fisher.
Here.
Counselor Leftridge. Counselor Nunnally.
Here.
Counselor Walker.
Here.
Counselor Gabrielle. Counselor Blank.
Here.
Mayor Hunter.
Here, all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Right here.
Yeah, will you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have our agenda before us. Look to council for a motion. Mr. Dowd.
Your Honor, I move the agenda is published.
Second.
Mr. Nunley, second. Thank you. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion carries. We have consent agenda before us. We have two items on the consent agenda. First is council minutes for June 8th, 15th, and 22nd of 2026. The second is ordinance 1952, second reading, parking updates. This ordinance considers removing a 30-minute parking spot south of the public safety building and incorporating a rolling rule. Look to the public for any public comment on these two consent agenda items. Please step to the mic and state your name or raise your hand if you're online. Seeing no public comment, look to council for a motion. Mr. Waterman.
Your Honor, I move the consent agenda as published.
Second. Mr. Walker, second. Thank you. We'll get a roll call vote.
Counselor Dowd.
Aye.
Counselor Waterman.
Aye.
Counselor Fisher.
Aye.
Counselor Nunnally.
Aye.
Counselor Walker.
Aye.
Counselor Blank.
Aye.
Mayor Hunter.
Aye, motion carries. We have one community reports this evening. Mountain Climber Director Elizabeth Wood, please step to the mic.
Good evening, City Manager, Mayor, and council members. Elizabeth Wood, I'm the Director for Flathead County Public Transportation, Mountain Climber, and thank you for your time this evening. I appreciate the opportunity to come visit with you this evening. I'll try to make it very quick. My main purpose this evening is just to give you a quick update on our services that we provide here in Kalispell. It's been maybe a year and a half since I've been in here, maybe 2 years, so I'm past due. So in the handouts that I did provide you folks this evening, you'll find a one-pager in there that I took with me. I had the opportunity to go back to DC for a legislative fly-in for transportation. There were 8 different agencies from Montana that were represented, and I think we represented very well over there. So I just included that in there for your information to see what I took back to them in DC to just give them a little heads up on what we're doing here in Flathead County. There's also a handout that has our ridership for the year, and there is a presentation in there that I'm going to open up and just cover a few of the slides in there that it's a VIA presentation. It was put together by our software provider that we did at our last Transportation Advisory Committee meeting, and I'll just touch on a few things there. Before I go into that, I just want to give you an update on our ridership. So that handout in there gives you the ridership totals for our last fiscal year, which we just finished up at the end of June. So our ridership total for the year from July through till June, this June, was 60,979 rides that we provided in the community. And I just want to give you a little information on that. A lot of times, some of you may remember numbers from back in the day when we had our fixed route. So a fixed city route in addition to our paratransit services. And if you remember those numbers, which you may or may not, you may think, well, that's not as high as you used to be. So I'd like to give just a quick explanation on that. When we had our fixed route services, part of the goal with the fixed routes were to create routes in which we started getting those transfer points that would make the ride time shorter, make a better ride experience for our riders, and we did. So if you think about it from the perspective of what the current service we have, which is an on-demand microtransit type service, it's one trip is counted for a ride, so a trip. So from point A to point B is one ride. Whereas when you're on fixed route services for so-and-so to get maybe to the college or to a grocery store or medical appointment or work, they may have taken 2 to 3 trips, essentially. It's recorded as 3 rides. So I like to put that out there to give you an idea on these numbers. These numbers are actually pretty good for the resources that we have that we're putting into it. So for Kalispell, out of those 60,979 rides, our total ridership here in Kalispell was 48,069. 48,069 rides provided here in Kalispell out of those 60,000. So that's a little bit on ridership. I won't break down specifically any other little details on this chart, but you can kind of look through that. And the other thing I like to point out on this, down below that, it gives a little chart there of who we're providing these rides to. So we track who we're providing rides to. Our drivers will track whether it's a senior or a person with a disability or just what we call general ridership. And we're very happy and pleased to let you know that ending the year out, 46% of our rides were for general ridership, 28% for folks with disabilities, and 26% for our seniors or elderly. So we're really excited with that number. We're really proud to have that number presented because it just demonstrates that we really truly are servicing everyone that needs the ride that comes before us. So we're not just focusing on seniors, we're not just focusing on general ridership. It's a nice rounded number there. So that's a little bit on our ridership. I'm gonna bring up that slideshow now just to cover a few little extra tidbits for you here. All right. So some of you might remember that back in 23, we did increase our fares. So we had been zero fare started basically from 2020 through until 2023. What we found was that our capacity was completely maxed out, so we did start charging. This is just a little chart that just goes to demonstrate our ridership and how it did drop down when we put that fare in place. And that was our intention. One of our main reasons for putting that fare in place was we were max capacity. We wanted to create that availability for riders to where we weren't constantly telling them, I'm sorry, we don't have any availability. So it did work for that. You'll also notice that we're starting to get, our ridership is really starting to peak out there again. So we're really looking at our solution for that. And I'll get into that a little bit. I won't say later, a few minutes. Ridership feedback. So our riders are very pleased with the service we're getting. We average 4.9 star ratings out of 5, and so we're doing a great job there. Our riders are always very appreciative, and honestly, the rides that we're providing in the community make a huge impact on their quality of life, getting them to work when they cannot afford a car, or they just don't have the means to get to work, or the senior that can't drive, and so getting them to their medical appointments, to shopping. The rides we're providing are very impactful rides and make a huge difference in the community members that are needing and using the service. So Kalispell, they've pretty much always averaged about, in the years I've been in transportation, which has been about almost 10 years, about 80% of the rides typically that we provide have been to Kalispell residents. The other 20% have been in Whitefish and Columbia Falls. It's starting to go up a little bit. So in 2024, it was at 83%, and we're at 85.5% for last year. So we're seeing that going up a little bit. There's various reasons on that, but we are seeing a little uptick in that. This is just a little heat map, and VIA kind of breaks down the general areas of where our concentrated ridership is at. They're just pulling little, like a store that's in that general area. So I wouldn't necessarily go off of that, but that heat map will kind of give you an idea of where our high traffic areas are. And it's probably no surprise to you. I mean, where we have housing, senior housing, or just concentrated housing areas, and then of course the drop-off points north of town. And So that just gives you an idea of where we're picking up and where we're going. I guess those were pickups. These are drop-offs. Yes. But it's the same general thing. So this is where people are going. The other one is where we were picking folks up from, and this is where they're traveling to. So it gives you just kind of an idea, heat map-wise, where we're traveling. Same with that. And why is this off so much? And we don't really care about that, so we're not going to worry about that. So hours of service that we're providing. So you'll see the blue little tallies there are requested rides currently. The red line is kind of the drivers that we have in place to actually facilitate these rides. So what we're starting to see, and it's kind of been a juggling game, is, in the mornings and the late afternoons, those are the times in which we're really having that more issues with trip denials. And this has always been the game. So we've about maxed ourselves out and taking those drivers and moving them to either end, like where they start first thing in the morning or they end. So we're kind of just squeezing them out like this, and we're kind of at the max as far as being able to adjust those. So, of course, people getting them to work, getting them to school, and then again in the afternoon, getting them picked back up from work or school and getting them back home. So those are our super busiest times. So we're just running into what are we going to do about that? But that gives you a little picture on what that looks like. A little fun fact for you. So VIA compared our microtransit on-demand service to other on-demand services across the state, and they were very pleased and happy with our production numbers. So we are second in the state, really, only just right behind Helena. And so what that means is 3.4 is each driver that's out there is providing 3.4 riders, and it's not necessarily a rider. A lot of riders will have multiple individuals with them. So it's 3.4 pickups, and that would also include their drop-off. So 3.4 individuals per hour per driver. So that's actually pretty good production for our drivers. So we were pretty happy with that, ranking up there at the top in the state. So availability of rides is very strong during the day, as you can see, and this kind of just goes back to the idea, the beginning of the day, the end of the day is where we're really having those issues with availability. So rebounding demand. So we do have a slight increase in our ride times, but really we're still sitting in a really good benchmark of 15 minutes is where we really like to be, and we're still sitting underneath that. Back before we had reintroduced our fares, you can see where we were sitting. When we were at max capacity, we were at lengthy wait times, and so we've been able to drop that back down. We're staying very efficient and happy customers. So we're pleased with that. So we do have an app. So for those of you that don't know that, we do have an app. It's basically like an Uber type service. So they can download the app, and honestly, VIA is amazed at how many of our riders are actually booking on the app. So a lot of services across the country, they may not have as many that are actually using the app to book their rides, but it's a huge benefit to us because then we're not sitting on the phones quite as often, and our riders get a better experience out of it when they have the app and they're able to track their own rides and such. So pretty high numbers there. Whitefish, of course, Whitefish and Columbia Falls, our ridership over there is primarily seniors because we have more of a shortened window of service that we provide service over there. So we're only in Whitefish and Columbia Falls really from like 9 in the morning in Columbia Falls, 9:30 in Whitefish, until about 3:30 in Columbia Falls and 4 o'clock in Whitefish. So we're not able to really provide rides very well for workers and such. So it's primarily seniors that are using the service over in those cities versus Kalispell. I think that's pretty much all I have for that. So my main purpose tonight is just to give you a few little updates on our service and let you know what we're doing, and that gives you kind of just a huge high-level snapshot of it. So as I mentioned, we're kind of getting at max capacity again. We're really approaching that point with busting past that 60,000 again. And so in our Transportation Advisory Committee meetings, what we're looking at right now is we're looking at doing a slight fare increase. And just to give you an idea on that, the fare increase does not help our financial status at all. I mean, it doesn't help us financially at all. Any money that we generate from our fares comes right off the top of our federal funds. So the purpose of increasing the fare slightly would be that individuals that maybe are taking multiple trips a day or multiple trips a week that might be able to consolidate those, they might kind of think, okay, maybe I can do this in one trip this week, or maybe one trip today versus 2 trips today type situation, and free up a little bit of availability. And it will create a little bit of availability for us, but it's just going to be short term. I would also like to mention that all of these rides that we're providing, you've probably never seen an advertisement for us, have you? Probably not. There are so many people, what I call us is the best kept secret in Kalispell, to be honest, because we do not technically advertise. If we advertise the service, it would just not, I don't want to say it wouldn't be good, but we would just be telling people no all the time. We have limited resources to provide this service. Our main advertising is word of mouth. We do flyers that we drop off at doctor's offices, various places of employment. We do social media, but that's about it. And these rides are just from that. That's without any advertisement to speak of. So we're looking at a slight fare increase. It's not going to be excessive. We haven't determined that amount yet. And I'm not coming to ask for money. I am coming to just see if I could get a little more support from the municipalities. That's my goal in visiting our city councils. This summer, I'm making some visits to all 3 of you again, and just looking for a little more support. So to give you an idea, I believe our contribution I don't know how far back it goes from Kalispell, but our contribution that you guys have given us has been $15,000 per year. And I can't speak to how far back that goes. Between Columbia Falls and Whitefish, they've been giving a total of about $15,000 as well. So we're very limited on our support from our municipalities in our funding. Most of our funding comes from tax money from our county, and then of course federal funds. So I'm just kind of putting the bug in the ear to see if you guys might be interested in maybe just discussing it. If you have any questions, I'd love to come back again and answer questions and or sit down with anyone that's interested. But maybe just think it over, see if there might be room to maybe give us a little more support to help increase our services in Kalispell. Any questions?
Questions for Ms. White and Mr. Dowd?
Yes. What is the difference in ridership between like the winter and the summer months?
So it varies. I do on that chart, I do have a breakdown, aren't here yet. And so that's probably the month that we have the least amount of riders. But you will notice in there that our ridership just keeps going up. So it's going to be an issue eventually. Well, it is becoming an issue. Yeah, max capacity.
As far as planning and projects go, what is your next biggest goal that you're trying to reach? What's the next thing you're trying to do?
Great question. So some of you might recall the last time I came here that I was really making a push for that Tri-City commuter. So connecting our 3 cities, which I will say that is still our top priority that we have identified in all of our Transportation Advisory Committee meetings. I will also say that I think it's difficult because you guys know how this goes with Whitefish, Kalispell, Columbia Falls. We're all separate. But the thing is we're not, it's really becoming kind of this one big area. And I think the misconception from some Kalispell folks is we don't really want to bus people to other cities. But the phone calls that we get is not, hey, we want to go from Kalispell to Whitefish or from Kalispell to Columbia Falls. It's from Whitefish and Columbia Falls trying to get into Kalispell. So much of it for school, for shopping, for medical. So that is what we've identified as our top priority. That being said, the fact that we're getting close to our max capacity again, we're really going to have to start looking at what does this look like when we reach max capacity again. If we implement a slight increase in fares, we'll gain a little bit of availability for a short period of time, but then what? So really when we're looking at, Kalispell continuing to grow, the area continuing to grow, more housing, I just feel like it needs to be part of the discussions of what we're going to do as far as increasing service in the valley. So our top priority is commuter. However, what I can say to that is I don't feel like I have support from the commissioners on that at this time. We don't have the funds for it, to be honest. We just absolutely don't. And I feel like I need to see more buy-in from the city municipalities to make that even move forward. And I would need the funding to help with our local match portion to make it move forward.
Have you worked up a cost projection of what that would be if you were to add that onto your current services instead of trying to make your current services do that?
I have. I didn't bring those numbers with me because I wasn't going to make a pitch on that this session. But it's approximately around $250,000 roughly, which in the grand scheme of things is not that much. And that would provide 4 drivers, 4 full-time drivers to provide that commuter service. And part of those 4 full-time drivers would also provide additional on-demand service in those cities. So it's about 2/3 of those 4 drivers, their time would be actually utilized for commuter, and then the additional hours would be for on-demand service in those cities, helping with connecting people to the commuters. You're welcome. Any other questions? Yes, Kyle.
Sure. So a couple, because I've been a participant in the Transportation Advisory Committee for years, so it's been a while.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that I think it's important for the council to hear is that, so when we have that fee, not only does it help manage how many people are coming in, but how does that work when we go for capital improvements?
Yeah, so any local, thank you for pointing that out, any local money that we bring in, and fares are included in local funds, but like our contributions from the cities, we get a contribution from Logan Health. They're working on getting us $10,000 this year. So any of those local funds are the money, including our tax money from county, are what we use for our local match with those federal grants. So it's meeting that. So on our operating, we have to come up with about 45% local funds to offset the other portion from federal. And then for admin, which is a much smaller portion, that we have to come up with 20%. So thank you for the question. Yeah, so that does help with that. Every dollar that we bring in from that helps offset that. And I would say our fares that we collect right now comes to about $40,000. But $40,000, an extra $10,000 or whatever, it makes a huge difference with what we can do as far as our grants go. So thank you.
And then just a follow-up question, because I remember this is where we were before. I remember that there were challenges of bringing in electrical buses.
Yes.
Because of just the charging time and how that affects transportation. But that was, some of that was federal requirements on electric buses. Have they changed where they are and what type of steel we have to have?
Yeah, so we are okay with not having the electric vehicles right now. And we're not running any issues with that. We had previously tried looking at propane, but right now we haven't really opened that box again. We're doing okay right now. Yeah, the electric vehicles would be a huge struggle for us at this point. I can give you an example. Say, Missoula, in touring their facility and such, I work very closely with them through our Montana Transit Association. And one of the issues that they deal with, they're not just building schedules around available drivers, they're building it around available buses because they have to bring the buses back. They won't last an entire shift. So then you're bringing your buses back, having to charge them and have other buses available for that driver to finish their shift. So for the type of operation that we're doing here, we're still very rural here in Kalispell, even though to us it seems like we've turned into who knows what. It just wouldn't work for us at this point. But they are improving some of these vehicles. And we've also gone to smaller vehicles. You've noticed a lot of our smaller Ford Transits. The smaller electric vehicles don't quite have the capacity mileage to get us through our shift. And we really want to, they're getting there, but they're not quite there yet though.
And then one last question, because
Yes.
I know there was a backlog. How are we doing on the fleet? Do we have new vehicles? Are we still on a backlog?
We're getting there. I mean, we're getting some, we got 4 in 2 years ago. We were supposed to get 2 in last year, and they haven't showed up yet. They should be showing up this month, but I've been saying that. And then we put in for 2 for this next year. We would have put in for 4, but we have a parking lot project. Next year, we'll put in for 4. So our fleet is really growing on these Ford microtransits, which they're a lot more efficient, fuel-wise and time-wise. Our riders love them, drivers love them. They're working really well for us. We do have 1 vehicle, 1 bus, but we still have issues with as far as maintenance goes. We have 1 bus that cost us, oh my goodness, $18,000, but we need it to operate. So we're improving. We're getting there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I just had one, and forgive me, I think I asked you this question a couple of years ago and you answered, but it's been a few years, so my memory. But just for folks who can only pay cash, don't have a bank account, I know we went to, app and online payment, all that, credit card payment, all that, a few years ago. Is there any opportunity to allow for cash payment for folks who don't have a bank account to use the service? So
probably not. We're probably not going to go backwards on that, but what we implemented that has worked very well for us are vouchers. So we used to have vouchers. We used to have paper vouchers that we handed out, but they were getting photocopied, and so they were just willy-nilly everywhere. So what we've gone to is a single-use code voucher. So our VIA software, most of the transportation softwares that are being used these days have those voucher options. And so we have single-use vouchers that we offer up to any agency out there. And that's what we've been doing, and it's been working really well. So like the warming center, they purchase those from us, and they have those to give out at their discretion to their clients. We have probably, I'd say at least 20 different agencies in town that purchase those from us, and then they give them out to their clients as needed. So it's worked really well. Another thing that we do is we still have a certain amount of complimentary rides, scholarship rides that we have, that if we have a rider call in that has just started a job and we're trying to get them to their work, and we have a certain amount of scholarship rides that we work with individuals with. So if they call us, we get their rides booked for them. So that's done internally through our dispatch office. But as far as the cash goes, it doesn't really work very well with this type of system because we're trying to create that accountability. So if they book the ride and we show up there and they're not there, then we don't really have any means of creating that accountability if we don't charge. And we're not really charging them up front. It's just we have that payment means on file. And then for safety reasons, there's so many of the cities that have gotten away from it because it just doesn't, for safety reasons of our drivers, it really helps out with that issue of they're not going to pay their fare. And we always used to say, hop on the bus. We don't care about their dollar, let them on the bus if they're going to, if they don't have the money. But just not having that cash on the vehicle as well is a huge safety bonus. So probably not going to go backwards on that, but we do have a lot of means in place that are really able to help those folks out that would normally use cash. Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you so much, and I look forward to answering any questions down the road or sitting down with any of you and coming back again.
Great, thank you so much.
Have a good evening.
Great, so move on to general public comment. This is the opportunity for anyone speaking on items not on the agenda this evening. Please step to the mic, state your name for the record, or raise your hand if you're online. And just a reminder to please keep your remarks concise and to the point.
Hi, my name is Diane Porter. I've been communicating somewhat with the mayor. And I've never spoke before a group of people, so if all of you but one would kindly step out of the room, I might get through this. Anyway, thank you for giving me this opportunity to say what's been on my mind for a long time. And now I'm going to read this. I should have it memorized for as many times as I've gone over it, but I would like to know why there are no independent senior communities in Kalispell. I would also like to know why there is no affordable housing available for seniors who live on fixed incomes and young families who cannot afford to invest in a $400,000 to $500,000 starter home. 4-story boxes are going up everywhere in the city, and all are rentals other than the Woodlands. The Affinity is a new 4-story box, 55-plus senior community that will open this fall. I can rent a studio apartment there, starting at $1,995 per month, while enjoying the dozen or so amenities they will provide that I probably won't use. What a deal. I've also checked into Vista Ridge Cottages, which offers manufactured homes of various sizes, and the smallest I could purchase, home and lot, would be 684 square feet for about $369,500, not affordable for low-income people. My husband passed away in 2024, so I am now alone, and my family all lives out of state. I am 82 years old and live 20 miles from everywhere. I would like to move into Kalispell before I am unable to drive, so that I am closer to services and providers, but there is no place to go other than single-family homes which are too big with large yards that I can no longer maintain. I purchased my first home, a double-wide trailer, in 1977, and when I sold it, I put that money into a house account, which was then applied to my next house, and then the next, and so on, until I purchased the home I am now living in, which is now paid in full. Why would I want to take this equity that I struggled to save and protect for so many years only to pay rent while living in a 4-story box, and the only thing I would have in the end is a balcony and a handful of receipts? The developers and landlords would be happy, but me, not so much. I, as an active solo senior, would like to own my own home, preferably a tiny house in a senior community, but there are none available. I have done considerable research into tiny home villages, which are located all over America, but none in Kalispell or Montana. Maybe you would like to have me as a neighbor in your backyard in an ADU. It appears that the rich and famous have discovered what we Montanans have known for decades. Montana is the treasure state. But now, thanks to those who have money and power, Montana is being sold off to the highest bidder, and the vulnerable residents are neglected. When is enough enough? People will continue to age, and more are aging healthier, but yet there appears to be a segment of the population that continues to be forgotten until we get to the point of needing assisted living. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Porter. Okay, if you're online, please unmute yourself.
Oh, I just told her she could talk. Hold
Yeah,
on just a
one
second.
moment. Yeah, no, one moment. We'll take person online and then you can come up. Yeah.
Darla, go ahead. Darla, do you want to go ahead and provide comment? And of course, it's not working. There we go. Maybe not.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, you can? Okay. Thank you, Council, for listening to me. Kind of want to piggyback off of the last person that spoke. I really do challenge the council to consider the elderly that's in our community. We're consistently, or I'm hearing consistently, that you all are really looking towards affordable housing for the single family, the people that are coming here so that they can, you know, add to the businesses downtown. And I think like it feels like there isn't any thought around the elderly. What are they going to do? They're property taxes rising, they can barely afford the $30 a month latte you all talked about last week. Montanans typically take care of their finances. And so spending $30 a month on a latte or going downtown to just spend money just doesn't normally happen. And our elderly, the pillars of our community, need some kind of housing, affordable housing, not just the newcomers. Thank you for listening to me. I appreciate all that you did. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all for online.
Sir, did you want to speak?
Oh, not on that matter, no, sir.
No, it's anything that's not on the agenda.
Gotcha. Good evening. My name is Jordan Channel. I'm a Kalispell resident. 2 weeks ago, a resident stood here and raised the license plate readers and the parking budget. And he was told to inform himself about the discussions this council has already had. So I did, and I read the budget documents, and I read May 13 minutes. Here's what the record shows. The money is real. Line 346, parking enforcement material and software, $70,000. A line that was zero the previous 3 years. What the budget document never says is what the money buys. The words license plate reader appear nowhere in it. No vendor appears in it. The actual scope of this purchase exists only in things said out loud. I listened to what was said out loud because it matters. At the last meeting, members of this council committed to parking enforcement only. Cameras on enforcement vehicles, no facial recognition, no sharing with other departments, and not the vendor everybody in the state is worried about. Those are good commitments, and I want them to win. Right now, they are commitments made into a microphone, and microphones do not bind budgets. Montana Code 465117 generally prohibits the city from using license plate readers on public roads. The one exception requires a written policy covering retention, sharing, training, and oversight, adopted before use, not after. And that exception exists for law enforcement and criminal justice purposes. On May 13th, the police chief told this council it is in the adopted minutes that this system is not connected to the criminal justice network. I am not a lawyer, but if this is not a criminal justice use, I want a written legal opinion on whether the statute's only exception covers it at all before a dollar moves. I will also note that in the same May 13th presentation, the described use grew from replacing tire chalking to city lots, the permit system, the parking violations throughout the city. Growth like that is exactly what a written policy exists to pin down. And since the stated reason is replacing chalking, the Ninth Circuit upheld chalking in 2022. Verdun against San Diego. Chalking is legal here. This is a choice, and choices this sensitive get justified on paper. So tonight, and this is now timely because it is on tonight's consent agenda, Ordinance 1952 adopts the rolling rule: a vehicle may not return within 600 feet of its spot for 8 hours. Enforcing that rule means tracking where cars are parked over time, and the parking strategy documented in tonight's own packets say how a mobile license plate recognition system to track durations and detect whether vehicles moved. So tonight, in one consent motion, the rule whose enforcement engine is the camera system arrives, while the written policy the statute requires for the camera system still does not exist. The cart is on the agenda and the horse is not. So one ask, and it is one this council already agrees with: adopt the written policy by resolution with the statute on its face before the budget adoption on August 17th, and before any LPR enforcement of the rolling rule begins, or condition the $70,000 on the policy existing first. Paper first, spending second. If the commitments made in this room 2 weeks ago are real, this costs the council nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi there, my name is John McDonnell. I'll be talking about the license plate readers as well. Good evening. I stand before you tonight in firm and unapologetic opposition to the proposed automatic license plate readers and surveillance systems and any further expansion of this infrastructure. These systems photograph and log the movements of virtually every vehicle that passes, creating a permanent, searchable record of where ordinary citizens travel and when. This is not targeted policing. These cameras are mass surveillance. Never judge a surveillance system by the good it promises, but by the harm that it permits in the wrong hands. I must ask each of you directly, do you fully understand the long-term implications of this decision? Not merely for next year's budget or crime statistics, but 5, 10, or 20 years from now. Once these systems are installed and the data network is established, what happens when additional units are added? Retention periods are quietly extended, or the system becomes linked to a larger state or federal database. Have you honestly confronted the trajectory of enabling our community into an ever-expanding surveillance grid? These choices do not occur in isolation. They align with the broader pattern of smart, sustainable cities, advanced under the United Nations 2030 Agenda and Sustainable Development Goal number 11. While presented as voluntary and aspirational, real-world implementation routinely drives data-intensive technologies through partnerships, grants, and planning models. I question whether the majority of this council has fully appreciated how local decisions like this one contribute to that larger framework. I cannot and will not remain silent while this body appears prepared to disregard foundational, legal, and constitutional protections, particularly the Fourth Amendment's safeguards against unreasonable searches and seizures. The mass, warrantless collection of citizens' movements constitutes a direct assault on those rights. Montana's own constitution provides even stronger privacy protections, requiring any government intrusion to serve a compelling interest through the least intrusive means. These systems fail that test. If this council is comfortable setting aside these core protections, why should any of us continue paying taxes to support the effort? Why should residents hand over their hard-earned money to fund a system whose long-term consequences have not been adequately examined and whose fundamental methods already conflicts with constitutional principles? You are essentially declaring war on the taxpayers of this community. Last week, I stood here and watched every single one of you. You all have 2 ears, you all have 2 eyes, and you all appear to have a brain. What I did not see, not from one of you, was a single morally, ethically, or lawfully driven council member. That is very upsetting and very disturbing. You all seem perfectly fine and capable of breaking the law because that is exactly what you are doing by advancing these systems. I don't care if you try to call them just license plate readers. That is what you are doing and it is illegal. I'm here again this week to see if your ears are working because last week it appeared they were not. Nobody even answered my questions except for 2 of you, and that in itself is sickening. You are supposed to be for the people, elected by the people. Instead, you were elected by the people, and now you are actively working against the people to spy on them. It is a sick, twisted, and perverted excuse to call these license plate readers a form of safety. Not to mention the fact that you didn't even come dressed correctly. You can't wear a shirt and tie, dress pants and dress shoes, and make yourself look presentable when you're talking about the Fourth Amendment, a federal law protecting the privacy of every taxpaying American in this community. I am beyond upset, and I'm coming for one of your jobs, so you better watch out and better start doing the right thing because otherwise somebody else, like me, will. When I read a rough draft of this speech to my mom, she thought I was just coming in to keep the council members on their toes. My friend called it a hostile takeover. I like to think that I'm just here defending my basic rights as an American that you are actively taking away by supporting these systems. And if it comes to a hostile takeover, then I'm not opposed to taking the place of one of the members who gave a half-assed response to my meaningful questions, or in the case of Mayor Hunter, actually decided to give me a snarky response and to say that, if you want war, then here I am. It is striking and perhaps telling that when government at any level begins to infringe upon basic American rights, particularly rights whose long-term consequences will fall most heavily on younger generations, the response is not thoughtful reconsideration, but resistance. Before I conclude, I have several more direct questions that this council must address tonight. Questions you should have already considered before bringing this proposal forward. Why are you choosing a private vendor with a documented history of repeated policy violations and data breaches, and whose leadership has publicly attacked transparency advocates instead of protecting the constitutional rights of the very citizens who pay your salaries? If these cameras are truly just harmless license plate readers for public safety, why have you not volunteered to have one installed directly outside of your own homes or the police station first, so we can see how comfortable you are being under constant surveillance? Last week, only 2 of you even attempted to answer my questions, while the rest remained silent or gave superficial responses. Do the rest of you simply have no opinion on whether this body is violating the Fourth Amendment and the Montana law, or do you just not care? Court documents from the manufacturer of these systems admit that they are only 93% accurate at reading license plates and capture 97% of passing cars, while also using advanced, quote, vehicle fingerprint technology and determining whether a person is in the image. How many innocent residents are you willing to have wrongfully stopped, detained, or even jailed because of this known error rate? Why are you ignoring well-documented reports of officer misusing these systems for personal stalking of romantic partners and exes? What specific safeguards have you put in place to prevent the same thing from happening here? If you truly believe these systems uphold the Constitution, as you claimed last week, why did you immediately proceed with a proposal that directly contradicts the Fourth Amendment and Montana Code annotated 46-5-117? Why have you not demanded a full independent audit and cost-benefit analysis showing actual measurable reductions in serious crime before committing public funds to this system? These systems are already installed without broad public debate or demonstrated compliance with state law. Why have you not paused their operations until those questions are answered? Can you honestly say that the elected officials and police officers in this community are equipped to handle the immense power these systems give them without misusing it in a perverted or abusive manner? Real-world examples from across the country suggest otherwise. Why do you believe Kalispell will be different? These are not rhetorical questions. These are questions you owe the public answers to tonight. These cameras of mass surveillance are also fueling the massive increase in data centers across our country that are rapidly draining our power grids and drinking water supplies just to store all the data they collect. Don't sit here and lie and say that they aren't cameras of mass surveillance. You should all be ashamed of yourself for allowing this in our community. I'm not going to allow this complete disregard for basic constitutional rights. The system operates on a subscription model requiring ongoing payments to a private vendor. Taxpayers have already funded existing systems with no public accounting. It was noted last week that the city manager makes around $200,000 a year, nearly as much as the vice president of the United States. If one position for the city already exists, why do we have a separate mayor role? There's a bunch of laws being broken. You guys are breaking the law, and you all seem fine with it. It's really upsetting. And you're going to put these cameras around, they're proposed to be around Flathead High School. The only people that park around Flathead High School are teachers, students, and residents of the area. So that doesn't work. That does not work with me. These systems violate the Fourth Amendment's protection against unreasonable searches and seizures. The Supreme Court has repeatedly made clear that detailed, ongoing location tracking of ordinary people requires a warrant, which has not been. There's no warrant for these cameras. In Chattree versus United States, the court held 6-3 that geofence warrants seeking cell phone location history constitutes a Fourth Amendment search. Justice Kagan emphasized that individuals retain a reasonable expectation of privacy in location records held by third parties, even for limited periods of time. This precedent directly supports challenges to any technology that builds comprehensive movements histories without warrants. In Carpenter versus United States, 2018, the court required warrants for historical cell site location information, recognizing it provides an all-encompassing record of a person's movements in an intimate window into their life and associations. In United States versus Jones, 2012, the court unanimously held that the prolonged GPS tracking of a vehicle is a search, with concurrences highlighting privacy in the, quote, mosaic, unquote, of daily movements. Riley versus California, 2014, underscored that digital data differs fundamentally from physical records and generally requires a warrant. These principles trace back to Katz versus United States, 1967, which protects what people reasonably expect to keep private, even in public spaces when aggregated. In plain English, the Constitution and Supreme Court precedent protects us from the government technology that builds detailed records of our movements without individualized suspicion and judicial approval. These systems do not do exactly that. Montana law reinforces these limits. Your proposal crosses those lines, and your apparent indifference to the fact is shameful. You guys need to do better.
Thank you, sir. All right, seeing no further public comment, we'll move into our action agenda. First item on the action agenda is Resolution 6333, Water Facility Plan. This resolution considers adopting this updated facility plan. Mr. Nygren.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, we do not have a formal presentation for you at this point in time. As you recall, we did do a work session on June 22nd and July 6th. Staff is here to answer any question and do have slides prepared for you if we need to do that. What you have before you is a water facility plan, which has been updated and provides as a guide for operational and capital improvements to meet city's foreseeable water system needs, present and future year sustainability. We worked with our consultant AE2S as well as Public Works, and this would supersede the previous 2018 plan. So staff would recommend the council approve Resolution 6333, resolution adopting the Kalispell 2026 Water Facility Plan, and we're here to answer any questions.
Questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, I'll open it up for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the council on the water facility plan, please step to the mic, state your name, or raise your hand if you're online. Okay, seeing no public comment, look to council for a motion. Mr. Waterman.
Your Honor, I move resolution number 6333, a resolution to adopt the 2026 Water Facility Plan update for the city of Kalispell, Montana, and setting an effective date.
Second.
Mr. Fisher, second. Thank you. Discussion on the motion?
I'm supportive of this motion because of really just the detailed work that the staff has put into this. I mean, I do think that it lays out what our future needs are, but it definitely had some big ticket items in there. So I know that that's the other part, which is how do we anticipate to work with that, but really supportive of the work that the staff did, but also the forward thinking that we're having.
I totally agree with those comments from Mr. Waterman. Well done, good planning. That's how everything starts, is good long-range planning. I was so impressed with the reports and fully support this.
Done.
And just for the public's knowledge, we did have extensive work sessions on this. There is packets of information that you can read if you're interested in any of the, basically the four items that we have tonight, all around water. I know there's been a lot of concern about that recently, and hopefully reviewing these will ease some of your interest in this. But we also, we're all available here if you have questions or comments. We'd be happy to work with you, and please send them into public comments so everybody else in Kalispell knows that there are other concerned people as well.
All right, get a roll call vote.
Counselor Dowd?
Aye.
Counselor Waterman?
Aye.
Counselor Fisher?
Aye.
Counselor Nunley?
Aye.
Counselor Walker?
Aye.
Counselor Blank?
Aye.
Mayor Hunter?
Aye, motion carries. Second item on the action agenda is Resolution 6334, Wastewater Collection System Facility Plan. This resolution considers adopting this updated facility plan. Mr. Negrin.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, similar to the last resolution, Resolution 6334 would adopt the Kalispell 2026 Sanitary Sewer Collection System Facility Plan update. Did hold a work session on this in June as well as July, had a public hearing. The proposed plan provides a guide for operational and capital improvements to meet City of Kalispell's foreseeable wastewater collection needs. I would add one thing I should have added with the last point, although we did discuss this for the publics, this does not in of itself raise rates or anything like that. Coming in the coming months, staff will be working on a rate study with and then be providing that to the council for consideration, sometime this fall. That would correspond with some of the capital projects outlined within these plans. So with that, staff's here to answer any questions.
Questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, I'll open this up to public comment. Anyone wishing to address the council on the wastewater collection system facility plan, please step to the mic, state your name, or raise your hand if you're online. Okay, person online.
Darla, you can go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, council, for taking the time to listen to me. I have a quick question in that with both of these proposals, it would be nice to have some kind of information about how that will affect Kalispell residents' property taxes. Like, how does it affect you directly? And if there is any information out there right now like that, I would love it if you would share it with us, with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no further public comment, look to council for a motion. Mr. Waterman.
Appreciate about the plans is just the reality of just like, what do we need to do and where are we on facilities that some facilities, especially here, have been around since the 90s, just that there's ongoing maintenance. So what I like about it is it gives us a framework of what the real issues are, or what we've identified, of what our plans, and what we need to address. And that's why I really appreciate the staff being able to go into that, because I think that that's one of the things that keeps us as a strong city, is actual forward planning. And eventually, when it comes down to this, what I like about the most about having this forward planning is that when we end up sometimes having to have shovel-ready projects, these are the types of plans that we're able to pass on those cost savings. But that's not how it, this is just a document that really gives us an idea of what all we have to do. And that forward planning keeps things working strong in Kalispell for me.
Yeah, I'll just touch on the public comment as well. What a plan identifies the needs. And so what we're doing is identifying the need. It doesn't commit us to the funding that comes through budgets or through the rate increases in the future, as we're looking at what the needs and what we need to afford. And of course, each project will have its own set of approvals that will come before council. So there's a lot of different process that happens before we get to the point of actually funding any individual project. This plan just identifies what those projects are, looking out into the future, so we can plan for those things through our processes moving forward. So, all right, roll call vote.
Counselor Dowd?
Aye.
Counselor Waterman?
Aye.
Counselor Fisher?
Aye.
Counselor Nunley?
Aye.
Counselor Walker?
Aye.
Counselor Blank?
Aye.
Mayor Hunter?
Aye, motion carries. Third item on the action agenda is Resolution 6335, Advanced Wastewater Treatment Plant Facility Plan. This resolution considers adopting this updated facility plan. Mr. Nygren.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, similar resolution, Resolution 6335, as you stated, would approve the 2026 Advanced Wastewater Treatment Plant Facility Update. The plan does provide a guide for operational and capital improvements to meet city's foreseeable needs. As I said before, happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff? I just had one question about, I know the plan looked at the solar panel consideration and it fell short. Is it possible to have council provided with just kind of a breakout of how close it came? Like, a 20-year payout, is it 21 years, 22 years, 30-year payout? kind of look at that analysis and see how close we are on that.
Yeah, that is in the facility plan, but it might take me a little bit to actually answer the question.
That's
So
fine.
I'd be more than happy to send that out to council and to the public as a response for that, to kind of give that exact breakout.
That's
for you.
great. I'm sorry I missed it in the plan, but yeah, I'd appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. All right, open it up for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the council on the Advanced Wastewater Treatment Plant Facility Plan, please step to the mic and state your name or raise your hand if you're online. Seeing no public comment, look for council for a motion. Mr. Waterman, you're doing heavy duty tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. I move resolution number 6335, a resolution to adopt the 2026 Advanced Wastewater Treatment Plant Facility Plan, update for the city of Kalispell, Montana, and setting an effective date.
Second.
Mr. Fisher, second. Thank you. Discussion on the item?
Again, I think that these, and I would encourage everybody to look back at the conversations that we've had and actually take the time to read these plans. This plan in particular really sort of identified some of the things that there's some large regulatory matters that were pending of how to move one way or the other, whether or not we have stricter regulations or not. What I liked about this plan in particular was that it sort of said there's just some things that we have to do regardless, and it started to propose a way that we could move forward through this sort of period of limbo. And again, really address the fact that we have a facility which is really strong, but was built in the 90s. And so that it's going to need some updates and stuff like that. And I thought the plan really spelled out, what we're looking for in some clarity about regulations, but also just some ways that we just keep moving forward, especially as we're a growing city.
I just had one comment, again, going to the energy issues. There was a recommendation as possibility of looking at Bonneville Power Administration grants for an energy audit for the city. And I'd like to see us move forward with that. Just look citywide, do an energy audit and see if there's any opportunities out there for, energy efficiency. I look at FEC. They're looking to purchase, a new gas-fired power plant to deal with future growth in the valley, right? That's gonna come back and hit us as ratepayers in the city. So anything we can do to advance energy efficiency brings down that need to go forward with some of those big capital projects on their end as well, and helps our ratepayers. So it'd be nice to look at that if we could move forward.
Yeah, I'd be approval of that, for sure. Anything we can do to be more self-sufficient, not dependent on the grid in general, especially for things like our wastewater treatment plant. So it's not down for days. That would be nice.
Okay, gone. All right, roll call vote.
Counselor Dowd?
Aye.
Counselor Waterman?
Aye.
Counselor Fisher?
Aye.
Counselor Nunley?
Aye.
Counselor Walker?
Aye.
Counselor Blank?
Aye.
Mayor Hunter?
Aye, motion carries. Fourth and last item is Resolution 6336, incorporating the 2025 Stormwater Facility Plan into the Kalispell Land Use Plan. This resolution considers incorporating this recently adopted plan by reference into the Kalispell Land Use Plan, Planet 2045. Mr. Nygren.
Yeah, and as you stated, the city of Kalispell's land use plan really does incorporate all these planning documents, and that's how we plan for future growth. As you may recall, stormwater facility plan was a bit ahead of the land use plan, so it's a bit of house cleaning. This resolution would just formally incorporate that facility plan into our land use plan, so that when we're looking at land use decisions, we know which land use or facility plans to incorporate into that. So happy to answer any questions. Doesn't change the facility plan really no change other than it does now incorporate it officially into our land use plan for planning purposes. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll open this item up for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the council on incorporating the 2025 stormwater facility plan into the Kalispell land use plans, please step to the mic, state your name for the record, or raise your hand if you're online.
Go ahead, Darla.
Council, it's me again. Thank you for answering my last question. One more question I have is, I realize now that this is a plan, funding is yet to be determined. However, in the engineering firm, and I used to work for engineering firms, the documentation and their studies and their recommendations aren't typically for free. So how would that get to be part of our, I guess, budget? Or was that free? Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further public comment, look to council for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Explain.
Jump in.
I was trying to give Mr. Wyman a break. I move to adopt a resolution incorporating the 2025 Stormwater Facility Plan update for the city of Kalispell, Montana in the Kalispell Land Use Plan, Planet 2045.
Second.
Mr. Fisher, second. Thank you. Discussion on the item.
I'll discuss on this one. This one is actually, I mean, it is an older plan, but actually I think it's one of those really important plans of how much the city works to keep specifically the river and the lake clean. I think it's pretty amazing to see the amount of work that we actually do. I mean, it's the blessing of having street cleaners and all the stuff that we do to make sure that we melt off snow and have a plan for what we're doing with our wastewater. So I appreciate the detail in this one, even though it wasn't something that we did. I watched it pretty closely when it was adopted, and it's happy to see it go into our larger planning.
I'm not sure if I understood the public comment question exactly, but I think maybe they were getting at where how we budgeted for the contractor work for the.
Expenditures of updating the facility plans, about 2 years ago. It just takes a while to do all that data and update the plans, which gets us to the point we are right now, which is the adoption of the plans.
Great, thank you. Right, roll call vote.
Counselor Dowd?
Aye.
Counselor Waterman?
Aye.
Counselor Fisher?
Aye.
Counselor Nunley?
Aye.
Counselor Walker?
Aye.
Counselor Blank?
Aye.
Mayor Hunter?
Aye, motion carries. City manager report.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, and to kind of follow up on, the mayor's question about the audit, certainly I'll take a look at that. The BPA audit is something that the Bonneville Power Administration, they do for free, but they could take a look at city facilities, and I think the wastewater treatment would be a good one to look into. So I can follow up on that, and I'll follow up with council, but certainly they can potentially make some recommendations that we may be able to take some use of. I informed the council about it just so the public's aware. The city of Kalispell was not awarded the build grant for the south half of the bypass. Unfortunately, no communities. There was one community in Montana that was awarded a small project in amount of $3 million, but we'll get prepared again for the next go-around for the south half of the bypass. That does not affect the Safe Streets for All grant on Main Street, although it does potentially relieve one kind of conflict point where if they were both awarded and two construction projects potentially happening simultaneously, that would not be the case here, but we're yet to find out what the award will be on the Safe Streets for All grant here in the coming months. Coming up next week, July 27th, work session, Parks and Recreation Master Plan, as well as continue to update the council and the public on the MDT Second Street Safety Project, which is slated to start construction early August. There's been a lot of construction over there on Woodland this coming year, but MDT does have a construction team on board with some public relations And we're coordinating with them as well, so be looking forward to some kind of robust public involvement here in the coming weeks. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, council reports, we'll move this way. Mr. Walker, start with you.
Sure, I'm sure Councilor Dowd might have some words to say tonight too, but I still committed that we are following the law in Montana as written as far as our license plate readers. Montana Code annotated section 46-5-117, subsections 2. As long as we are using them for our stated purpose, which is parking enforcement only. I'm not tracking people. We have no intention of placing cameras on poles, monitoring high schools. Their cameras will be on vehicles during active monitoring. So I take our Fourth Amendment rights very seriously. I take our privacy rights in this country very seriously. I'm appalled by a lot of the privacy violations going on in this country as well. I am not comfortable with these license plate readers, but as long as we follow all of the policies and procedures that we have stated, I can tentatively support them for our parking enforcement. But I am vehemently against any kind of long-range tracking, person tracking, AI tracking outside of parking enforcement. I don't know how I can make that any more clear. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Walker. I would totally agree with that. Years ago when I worked in IT, it was when cable TV was moving from the point of where you could just plug your cable into the wall. You had to go to a box top because they said we had to save on frequencies. If you read the fine print in the FCC on that, every box top set was required to have a passive RFID that could be turned on at any time. Once that passed and those RFID readers started going into, it's the only way you could get cable TV anymore. There was a news story, I believe it was in Forbes or one of those, about Walmart trying to figure out how to increase efficiencies because they realized that they were missing sales on men's jeans. And they worked with the manufacturer of their jeans to sew in RFID tags so that when they removed the jeans, when the customer removed the jeans from the shelf, put them in the cart, it automatically triggered that their stock level was lower. So they didn't have to wait the hour and a half that the average customer took to walk through the store for them to realize that their shelves were empty. It was kind of interesting to see that whole dynamic. And then we came out with these, and we all know what these track, right? And it is by no means am I saying that I'm okay with this. What I'm saying is I'm frustrated that it's happening at a greater level than we even realize, right? And I totally agree with you that we've got to protect those things, and that's why I'm interested to see what those policies, as we talked through with it when we were going through the budgeting process on this. Just because it's budgeted doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be purchased yet, right? There's a whole process that we got to go through. We have not selected a vendor yet. We still have to go through and even see if we can find a vendor that we're all comfortable with, because I'm sure we are all just as concerned about the Fourth Amendment and all of our security. So, yeah, that's kind of where I stand on that. Thank you.
I just wanted to thank Ms. Porter for bringing in the information about senior housing and tiny home villages. I'm traveling that street not too far ahead in my life, so I really appreciate you raising that. I did bring it up when we were looking at the advising committee to make sure we do think strongly about what we are doing for seniors, and I really appreciate you bringing it up, and I'm certain it'll be something that we look at, and we'll be sure to give you the update on that, so thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you again for the public comment that we've had today, especially around senior housing. I think that between that and our earlier comments that we were talking about with transportation, I do think that affordability for the people who live here really needs to be a priority for myself, but how we look at that when it comes down to the conversations that we were seeing about the mountain climber, I do hope that folds into some of our inner city conversations that we're having. Because I do think that that's an appropriate space to see where it is. I know that transportation is really hard, but I also do believe that it is one of those things that we can really maybe help with some affordability when housing is so expensive. And transportation and some of those issues around valued seniors ends up being one of our issues, just to make sure that, because wintertime and dark nights, just there's so many different challenges out there that we need to be considering about the housing that we have. When it comes down to looking at for monitoring, I do agree, Mr. Nunnally. I'd look forward to seeing some policies when it comes down to how we're going to use the parking monitors. I know that I think that all of us have sort of come into an agreement that we're not really looking for stingray monitoring or having the police be able to do monitoring of where cell phones are, or using Ring cameras, which are like in parks. I've seen that concern be raised in other communities. I'm glad to see where we are, and I think we seem fairly unified on where that monitoring would happen if it was outside of this parking enforcement, and that we want policies regarding the use of that one space.
I totally agree. Looking forward to the policies, very important step for us before we actually commit to anything. I know we're all on board for that. But I watch a lot of crime scene mystery stuff, right? And the first 48 hours is so important. And by God, I would rely on every camera I could. And it's going to be residential. It's not going to be government sponsored. But if my mother, wife, daughter, granddaughter, any family member was missing near a high school, near a mall, near anything, I would rely on anything I could, or some young reservation girl being sex trafficked and we knew a plate number. There's things that can be done that could be helpful to stop a lot of bad activity in a community that seems to be growing and growing. I'm not saying the Fourth Amendment, huge, but when it comes down to you, yourself, your family, and somebody missing or kidnapped from in front of a school, you're going to rely on anything that you can to get that information. And I just hope that those capabilities are there for law enforcement to go door to door and see what's out there available from Ring cameras of the private sort, but it shouldn't be government funded for that. So I understand the concerns of that. I totally do. Ms. Porter, your story resonates with me. My mother is 92. She lives alone independently in Village Green. She has a prosthetic. She prices the Springs or some of these retirement homes up to $10,000 a month to be able to go into a home to be cared for. It takes a lot of money to handle that if she lives, I think she'll live another 10, 15 years. She's tough, right? It's huge. And I'm so interested in looking into tiny home communities and affordable communities for people that are strong. You don't look 82, by the way. Live independently as she does. It's so important and so outrageously expensive for people at this point in time. She prefers to stay there. We try and bring in home health care and the things that she needs, but there'll come a time where she needs probably more assistance, but it's unattainable for many at that cost. I think the cheapest alternative was $8,000, and it goes up $500 a year to be able to get into many of the facilities. I know there's new ones coming online, but your story resonates with me. We have an aging community, and I would do anything I could, along with this council that I know supports it, to look into tiny home and affordable living and classy. I mean, it doesn't have to be something that's not up to your expectations of owning 4 or 5 homes that you've saved your life for. We should be able to get there in some sense for a community to protect our elderly. So thank you for the story. Yes, that's up to the mayor.
We're just doing council reports. You can approach us afterwards or, we're past public comment. Mr. Dent.
Thanks. I'll try to keep this brief here. First off, on the tiny home subject, huge try to see if it's a piece of the puzzle that solves our problems here in Kalispell with housing. And I also will agree with you that it's very expensive in this community to be retired. One of the reasons I think that is the case is because we have a big lack of healthy competition between benefits and care that is aimed toward our elderly. It's sad when there's a monopoly on something, and I don't like to see that. So hopefully we can get some more interest in here and some independent retired solutions. Now, as far as the license plate readers go, I've done, first off, when this came up initially in council, these guys almost had to carry me out because I was initially quite upset about it. I've done a huge amount of research into what we can and cannot do, and I will agree with you that without a policy, it's kind of ridiculous for us to buy them because we don't even know if we can use them or not until we have an effective policy that meets Montana code. The school district may have some, I'm not sure. There are some private entities in town that have some. Those are both outside of our control. The school district it's its own entity, so anything will have to be picked up by them if you have an issue with that. But I will tell you that just having a 5G camera mounted anywhere gives it the ability to do facial recognition, to do license plate tracking, to do all kinds of constant surveillance, right? And so that's definitely something that our policy will prohibit when we have a policy. As far as I'm concerned, we'll see how it goes. But I agree that we need to tackle this policy sooner than later. Especially before the budget. I'd hate to have to vote down the entire budget because I didn't like one line item in it. So, and as far as, and I am, there are some great examples of how this can be just abused. I mean, some 1984 type examples. Our neighbor to the north does some very questionable things with facial recognition. China actually set this up for the community good a while ago, and now they have a total social credit system where if you buy too much gas, they'll turn off your credit cards so that you can't use them at a gas station to buy more gas. That kind of thing. It's pretty alarming. So I do have a whole bunch of information to share on this. I'm not going to do it tonight. Please contact me if you want to discuss any of this. And I do support keeping a critical eye on your government at all times, from your president all the way down to your city government that includes police. So thank you for your comments tonight. We did hear them. One reason we take public comment and we don't have a discussion is because government is really bad when it makes decisions within a few minutes. We want to be able to ingest stuff, do some research, get our ward's feedback on items before we actually make decisions. So thank you for bringing your public comment tonight, and I assure you that it is not, it was heard. That's all I have.
Sure. Mr. Negrin, want to
I
add
just,
something?
yeah, I just wanted to add to the, so the city of Kalispell has to follow its procurement policy before it even hires anybody, which has not taken place. It has to be in the budget to even do that. Also, I just want to make it clear, state law prohibits everything you're talking about. So we can't do that. If we wanted to, we would be violating state law. So state law pretty much outlines everything you're talking about, and it limits what the city of Kalispell can do. So I suggest looking at state law. The city of Kalispell is going to follow it. It does require the city to adopt a policy, or for KPD to adopt a policy, just as it does, excuse me, with a number of criminal adjustment or criminal justice information. So certainly the chief, staff, we're here to answer any questions, but we're very comfortable with what state law allows, what LPR does, and what the city of Kalispell would be using it for, so.
Yeah, I didn't mean to infer that we were doing any of the things I mentioned. I just said that those are where this can lead eventually if we don't put strict guardrails around it. And I appreciate the comment. In fact, you replied back to public comment with an email that had the state code. You highlighted the pertinent sections in there. We really need to get that out because it will solve a lot of, or it'll waylay a lot of the questions that people have about this. I think that would be a good thing to communicate out as broadly as we can. Thanks.
I just have three items, to piggyback on that discussion. When I first learned about the LPR system as being a proposal that was going to come before council, my first question was about surveillance and that question and a concern about it. So I don't, in hearing everybody on council, we're more or less united in sharing the concern that we're hearing from public comment. I think we're all there. Nobody wants a flock system that's doing mass surveillance, or these vast majority on the council. I don't hear any desire for that. So we're all committed to ensuring that that's not what we're doing. It's not a mounted system. It's not flock. It's, it's very different from what we're hearing in public comment about the concern. And I do believe that with the state law and whatever policy we approach, I believe our police department is professional and will follow the law as they always do. So I have confidence that we will get there and have a system that we can rely on that doesn't breach our trust or the public's trust on this issue. On the comments regarding the tiny homes, Ms. Porter, we have had some communication over email, and I appreciate you coming in and sharing your thoughts. And I did point out that our code does currently allow tiny homes. If there is kind of an acreage requirement for kind of a tiny home village, there is that limitation there, but we do allow for tiny homes. And Mr. Dow, you're correct. I know we've had kind of conversations how we both want to see tiny home developments in our community. We'd love to see that, and you certainly are on point about the value of that would be to our senior community and something we need in our community. The city does not build developments, right? And so we need that developer to seize on that need, that desire out there, and come forward with a tiny home proposal. I think there'd be a lot of excitement on council to see a proposal like that come forward. So whether it's one of the service sector providers or a developer coming forward and getting on that idea of a tiny home development, I think is certainly encouraged. Lastly, I'll just highlight that the radical state of North Carolina just passed a ban on mandatory minimum parking. So, of course, being facetious about it being a radical state, but check that out. I know we're going to have more zoning discussions in the future, and they obviously came to a conclusion that there's value there. So, with that, we're adjourned.